Niharika from Your Legal Career Coach. We are a mentorship platform for law students. And on our YouTube channel, you'll find interviews with students and industry professionals to make your journey easier. Today, we have with us Bhavya Bhatt. Bhavya is a lawyer by training and a strategist by passion. With an experience in legal marketing, brand building, and business development, she's helped law firms grow their online presence. And here she is to talk to us about these very things. Welcome, Bhavya. It's a great pleasure to have you on board.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak on this.
So, before we begin talking to Bhavya, I'll quickly tell you about us. Your Legal Career Coach was founded by Samanika Rawat, an NUJ alumna and an Indian Army JAG branch recommended candidate, to make legal education and career guidance easier and more accessible to all. We offer live and pre-recorded courses for entrepreneurs, lawyers, and law students focusing on practical skills and career growth. What makes us unique is that we are the only legal edtech platform offering personalized one-on-one interview training with detailed feedback. With over 1,500 success stories, our mentees have secured internships and placements in top organizations, and we are here to help you build the legal career that you have always dreamt of. So do visit our website, yourlegalcareercoach.com, for more information. That is all about us. Coming to today's session. In this interview, Bhavya will tell us about how law students can build careers at the intersection of law, marketing, and strategy. So, Bhavya, first things first, can you walk us through your journey from being a lawyer to building a career in legal marketing and brand strategy?
Sure. So, actually, I guess my journey, goes back to when I joined law school. I wanted to become a lawyer ever since I was 14 years old. And I think kind of thought that, that is all I'm going to achieve when I join a law school. And I did. But I started freelancing when I was in my second year of law school. And I started earning, from my third year. The work that I used to do was purely from a legal content POV. And side by side, I also started preparing my personal brand on LinkedIn. And that was also by accident. But what I realized with time is that, your personal brand gives you a lot that you cannot get by, probably just sitting behind the screen and, applying for internships. And from there on, I applied the same principles for me, with other lawyers as well. So it was right when I was in law school that, my career started, except I didn't know that, I'd be doing this full time. I thought this would be my hobby and I just keep it as on the side. And I wanted to become a cyber lawyer, so I thought, okay, cyber law is my thing. But I think like things kind of don't really pan out the way you want them to go, because I graduated in the pandemic and there was a hiring freeze, and all the diplomas and certifications I did in cyber law really didn't yield me much. But what kept me afloat in a market that didn't have jobs was my freelancing. And I was regularly posting on LinkedIn, and a legal tech company's founder reached out to me on LinkedIn and asked me if I wanted to do BD along with a little legal work. So at that point, I was desperate for a job, but I also, kind of liked the idea of a lawyer doing BD. So I think my journey started off right from there on. Had I not taken that opportunity, I don't think I've been, sitting here and actually doing what I've been doing. So my journey from an aspiring lawyer to a BD, professional actually began right at the start. I really didn't have a lot of, practice as a lawyer. Yes, I've done 9 internships, but I mean, how much do you really, kind of weigh internships, right, in your career when you go forward? So I started off like that. And from first job to second job, I experimented a little with legal recruitment as well, realized that's not my cup of tea. Maybe BD and marketing is my thing. And after that, I pretty much, stayed on the same boat, and I've been doing that ever since. So I would say that this was actually an accidental find for myself, because I never envisioned that, I would be actually working with lawyers and law firms as a, let's say, marketer, or as a strategist. I thought I would be a lawyer, as everybody thinks they would be, right? Because corporate and litigation is the only thing that people in law school think of. And I was also like amongst those. But I think I just followed the opportunities that I got, and this has been my journey, from being a law graduate to a strategist.
Exactly what you said. So many law students are unaware of legal marketing as a career path. So can you break
Yeah.
down what legal marketing and brand building actually involve?
So, legal marketing, is actually strategically positioning yourself in front of your audience. So, that involves having a website, that involves having, an online presence that has an SEO, that is search engine optimized, where people are able to search for you, right? And then you have to be present online, and you're sharing educational content with the audience. Now, of course, as a law firm or a lawyer, you really can't solicit your services and sell your services online. So you have to be very strategic as to what information you're putting out there, and using tools like newsletters, etc. So basically, all in all, legal marketing is very wide as a domain, and it involves a bunch of things that people together do in order to position a law firm. And when it comes to brand building is actually creating a distinct identity of that law firm in front of its peers and contemporaries and the audience. So that could be very personal to law firm or a lawyer to lawyer, because one strategy of let's say law firm 1 versus law firm 2 is always different, because they're very different in brands, right? They position themselves differently, and they identify themselves differently. A few are called niche, they focus a lot on their niche. A few focus on just one particular practice area, etc., etc. So basically, the core difference between legal marketing and brand building is that legal marketing is a wider domain that strategically positions a law firm and a lawyer, and brand building is creating a distinct identity that reflects the lawyer's expertise all in.
Right. So taking out two keywords from whatever you just said, brand building and LinkedIn. So uh, how can young lawyers and law students start establishing their personal brand early in their careers? So personal brand can be synonymous with LinkedIn for law students, like you mentioned in your own journey. So what do you think
Yeah.
about it? How can that be done?
So I think for law students, I mean, if I think of how I did it, and if I were to apply the same thing with others at this point, I think it pretty much works the same. One thing about LinkedIn is that LinkedIn is your profile, it's your canvas, right? You control what you're putting out there. There's nobody else, who's kind of controlling the content, right? So you have the sole power to put whatever you want to put out there and position yourself, as, let's say, a content writer, or maybe even, let's say, an aspiring M&A lawyer. But how do you do that? To do that, you first kind of need to define what your agenda is. Like for me, I genuinely just wanted to kind of share my experiences. So for a very long time, my LinkedIn was not really confined to, let's say, legal marketing insights, or it was not confined to just what a BD person does or a marketing person does. My LinkedIn for a very, very long time was solely, my experiences. Like I used to share my experiences of going in a metro, and, my experiences with the passport office, etc., etc. But that helped me realize that people actually do resonate with your experience. And that is one way to build your brand. It's not necessary that just because you want to become an M&A lawyer, you have to just go ahead and talk about M&A all day long, because that is monotonous. That doesn't define you. Who are you? Your experiences, your opinions, your thoughts define you. So for me, I think if at all a lawyer or a law student even, is interested to start off on LinkedIn, they should have to let go of their, consciousness as to what will other people think, and what should I post? What if I don't get likes? What if I don't get engagement? The thing is that algorithm keeps on changing. So if you're running behind the algorithm, things will not really work out for you. So irrespective of how many ever likes or comments you get, you should just post. Let's say you have an experience that you want to share with your audience. Even if you don't have an audience, just go ahead and share it, because somebody or the other, considering the fact that LinkedIn feeds don't really confine itself to your connections, somebody or the other will resonate with you. Today it's one person, tomorrow it'll be two, and trust me, with time, there will be hundreds of people who will resonate with what you're trying to say, even if it's an opinion on an M&A thing. So the key to get started is just do it. Something that I think, Nike goes by. So you just got to do it. And that's the start, even for a law student.
Talking about the consciousness that you just mentioned, uh, as opposed to traditional legal practitioners and how they are supposed to be, how important is it for lawyers to have an online presence in this digital era? And what platforms, apart from LinkedIn, do you think they should focus on?
Okay, so I think coming to the first part of the question, why should they have an online presence? First of all, I think right now, anybody for this matter, whoever thinks of your name or hears, like hears your name, they go online, they kind of Google your name out, right? So it's important, and it's actually imperative for you at this time and age to be found on Google. Because if you're not found on Google, your expertise, your value that you bring to the table is not seen at all. Because, we're living in an age where everything needs to be verified online. And to kind of, be there on Google, you need to have an online presence. And I guess I don't need to explain, anymore as to why lawyers need to be online present, because that's their bread and butter. Yes, traditionally, you used to get cases via, referrals and word of mouth, etc., etc. But yes, and these traditional ways are also applied till date, but there's a lot of competition. And, if you want to scale at that level where you are competing with your contemporaries, it's very important for you to be at the same par at them, right? And that online presence will give you. Now, coming to the other, part of the question, where what other platforms can anybody, use in order for them to, position themselves. Now, the thing is that LinkedIn is the primary, of course, because that is the only platform where, professionals engage and they don't mind with whatever content you're posting, as far as, of course, it brings value. Apart from LinkedIn, I have seen lawyers, going on Instagram, even law students going on Instagram and, sharing their experience and like whatever they've learned, etc., and using their laws and amendments or whatever to, like a certain real case scenario and going and talking about it and giving information out there. So Instagram is a platform, provided, one uses it properly, because there's a lot of misinformation these days. And let's say, one person posts something about bail, the other person has a very different perspective, because laws are open to interpretation. That's, that's pretty much the crux of any law right now, right? So if person A interprets it one way, there is a person B who's always going to interpret it the other way, right? So there has to be an awareness, I agree, but one should ensure that they're not misinforming people. So Instagram is one such platform that I help people with, but I personally am very cautious about it. Instagram is one. Second, there's Twitter as well. Now, Twitter has a very different purpose. You really can't publish same content on LinkedIn vis-a-vis Instagram and Twitter, because the formats change. Like Instagram promotes reels, your LinkedIn, LinkedIn algorithm has started promoting videos, but to what extent? So the same content cannot be, replicated on Instagram vis-a-vis text. Like people will not read things on Instagram, right? You need some visual aid. And now when you apply the same principle to Twitter, you have a character limit. So on LinkedIn, where you're able to write, like points and paras, on Twitter, you are restricted to, a certain character limit. So over there, you need to adopt a different strategy. So over here, what I'm trying to say is that anybody can use any platforms, but they need to see what they're targeting also. Like for LinkedIn, you know that your target audience, your business owners and, your founders, CEOs, CXOs, everybody is on LinkedIn. So you know that, whatever you're going to post, you're going to get business out. Instagram has a different audience, right? So if at all your audience are independent people, let's say, like an individual who probably has like, an issue with bail, who probably might not be using LinkedIn, but might be on Instagram. So you need to kind of, break down who your target audience is, and if that target audience fits Instagram, then you can choose Instagram. Now Twitter, it is a great platform to share your opinions, but solely to rely on Twitter for leads and revenues, etc., is something that I'm not saying I've not seen it. I have seen it, but the proportion vis-a-vis LinkedIn is very less. So Twitter also can be leveraged, but the approach changes, your target audience changes, your businesses are not scrolling through Twitter, your clients are not scrolling through Twitter, right? They are on LinkedIn, or if the age gap is if the age is a little lower, then they are on Instagram. So one needs to accordingly determine what they want to pitch, to whom they want to pitch, and accordingly choose platforms. Then there's Facebook also, but I think those are for businesses, so I really don't want to dwell so much deeper into Facebook. But there are lawyers who require Facebook assistance, and we give it to them. So of course the approach also changes there. So all in all, platforms can be used, but one has to understand to whom they want to pitch ahead.
Okay, so from your experience, what are the key ingredients for building a strong brand as a lawyer or a law firm?
Okay. So I think, see, first is very clear positioning. Like you need to, you first need a clarity in terms of what you want to position out. What is your primary practice area, right? If let's say you want to pitch yourself to startups. So what exactly in that area are you want you to pitch to startups, right? Because law wise, there are so many things that, kind of also surround startups. So do you want to be a startup lawyer, or do you just want to, kind of engage with, let's say the funding part, or, you want to just engage yourself in the DD part, etc. So basically, you're supposed to know where you want to position yourself and to whom. So that clear positioning has to be established first. And then the second component, would be professional visibility. Of course, you've clearly positioned yourself. Are you really visible out there professionally? So what I'm trying to say with professional visibility is, are people able to search for you, and are you out there as a professional first off, right? So that also has to be established before you know before you actually end up getting something from your personal brand. And then another thing is an authentic tone that you're supposed to have in your profile. Now, by authentic tone, I mean to say that you really do not need to sugarcoat your work or your experience or your expertise, but it has to be out there that you've done this, and this is how you've done it, etc. I understand that when many a times your work out there has to be confidential, because there are a lot of parameters inside matters that can't be really let out on social media or public. But set an authentic tone, where people kind of trust you with where you're coming from. So that is also a very important factor when you think of personal branding. And then the fourth would be consistent messaging. Just because you're posting something today and you're not posting something for, let's say, a week, and then again, like 2 weeks later, you're like, okay, I'm posting something again. The thing is that you need to be consistent through your messaging, and that is how you're going to achieve that epitome of personal brand, where you're able to leverage it to get yourself leads or business. And then the next would be thought leadership. You have your clear position, which is fine. You are out there as a professional, which is great. You have an authentic tone, which is great. And you have consistent messaging, which is great. But none of it makes sense if you do not have thought leadership out there. And by thought leadership, I mean to say consistently kind of telling people that you know your thing, and basically by publishing your blogs, your articles, your using LinkedIn tools like LinkedIn newsletters, LinkedIn articles, which are embedded with internal SEO, etc. So all in all, your thought leadership is also very important, where you're supposed to create content calendars for yourself, strategize content yourself, so you know what you want to put out there and how you can position yourself. And all of it together, gets you an online presence that helps you with your personal brand. So, of course, there are a lot of factors, and I understand it may be confusing for people, when they hear it all together. But if you break it down one by one, you will realize where I'm coming from when I say this.
Right. So, of all the ingredients that you just mentioned, I believe every one of them can be adopted. But consistency, I believe, is something that has to come very inherently to us. So, many law students
Yeah.
want to start their legal blog or their LinkedIn page, but they struggle with consistency. So, what is your advice on maintaining consistency and engaging content strategy?
See, something that I tell everybody is that, I understand one really has to put in a lot of efforts when they write even one article, but you've got to do it for yourself because nobody else is coming out there and helping you, right? Of course, people like me and others, we exist because, we kind of help law firms and lawyers with their content. But even if, you were to do something for yourself, you will have to bring about that consistency. And I guess one of the best things that I've used myself, of course, in the past couple of months, or let's say almost 2 years, I've not really been very consistent on my LinkedIn. So I don't think, I have full authority when I say this right now. But what helped me previously and how I help my clients to ensure that, there's consistency is by keeping, a repository of content. Let's say, you've prepared your content strategy and you know that you have to post this content on, let's say day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, or whatever. You cannot sit every day and write, right? Because then there's a lot of effort and also a lot of time that goes in researching and writing. And it is also not possible to do that along with other work that you have throughout the day. So what I do, and the approach that I've adopted throughout for my clients and for myself a couple of years ago, is that I keep a repository with me, and I tell my clients to keep a repository with them. Keep your content written for at least 10 days. The next 10 content pieces, you have to keep it ready. And there are so many tools these days, which will allow you to schedule it also. So
Hmm.
you literally do not have to worry, with, oh my God, I'm not in a network area. How will I upload my content today, etc. So my advice is sit one day, pen out whatever you want to pen out and keep it with you. And over the days, schedule it. And this will ensure consistent messaging. Of course, and then every day you're any which way coming on LinkedIn and checking who's commented, who's liked, and who's engaged, etc., etc. Now, this applies also on website blogs. This also applied on, this is also applied on your personal blogs. So if you do not have time, which I understand nobody does, sit one day and write like, a collection of things and just keep it and then schedule it. This is like my number one, I guess, hack or whatever you want to call it, to ensure that there's consistency throughout without having a break in between while posting.
Right. That sounds very effective, yes. How can law students identify an alternate career path if they realize that traditional legal practice isn't for them?
So I think I'm going to answer this question on the basis of what I have felt throughout the years. Even though I wanted to become a cyber lawyer, the thing is that when you're in a law school, it's either litigation or corporate or judiciary. Of course, in three, four things only, you're told that, okay, this is there and this is how it is. So by default, you're conditioned into thinking that, okay, this is my, path, and I think I am going to be choosing. And that's how I ended up choosing cyber law also, because that seemed the most interesting to me. But how I realized, oh, there is something else, is also because I had that risk appetite to, deviate from the traditional law and actually move out. Now, I have actually gotten a lot of questions throughout these years. Even my own, juniors have asked me, is it a safe bet to be
Mhm.
shifting from traditional law to, let's say marketing or strategy or even content writing for this matter? What if we're not able to find something there? Can we go back to law, but then, we lose out on a lot of years or a lot of months of experience? Then we'll have to start from the scratch. So I understand these questions come, and these questions also came to me. But you cannot go ahead, in your career or in your life also otherwise, if you do not take the chances, right? You need to take chances. You need to explore opportunities. For me, I was always all about, interacting with people, networking with people, finding out, okay, what else can I do apart from law? And that's how I realized, oh, there's content writing, there's strategy, and there's legal marketing, and there's BD, and, there's submissions also, something that I'm sure law students don't know about. But there's so many other things that I was able to find out only because I accepted what came my way.
Right.
I did not have any qualms. Of course, I was worried, but I took a chance. So one has to take a chance upon themselves and network with people, talk to people, ping them continuously if you are interested in knowing that person and their journey, and expose yourself to whatever comes your way. You cannot, reach the moon simply by standing on your terrace. You need to take that leap. And in order to take that leap, you're supposed to trust in yourself and just take the chances. So I took my chances, and I think law students in law school right now, or even law graduates who are out of law school, can get into other paths if they explore, if they find people who are doing it, talk to them and ask them how we can do it. All of us, let's say in my circle, I know many people who are, all of us are ready to help, students and law graduates who are ready to, kind of explore this side. So reach out to people, don't be shy, and I'm sure you will find something that works for you if traditional law is not your thing.
So not a like a technical advice question, but a very important
Yeah.
part of your journey, as you mentioned, is the sabbatical that you took to travel and network. So how did
Yeah.
that influence your career decisions and professional growth afterwards?
Honestly saying, that was, I guess, the best decision of my life, for a 25-year-old who took the chance of leaving a job right into 3 months of, getting a job. And I was not, I mean, I knew what I was doing, but my people around me were like, you're not even 1 year into the corporate, or like, you're not even 1 year into the job and you're taking a sabbatical. This doesn't make sense. What are you going to do? How are you going to get money and whatever, whatever? And the thing is that I already had my freelancing that, that I restarted after I left my second job. And I went on a trip only to, kind of find out what I want to do ahead. See, sometimes, you're in a place for a long time, you feel stuck. And I needed to get out of that, not just physically, but also mentally. So I actually was in Udaipur when I resigned. It was my solo trip. And after that, for the next 6 months of sabbatical that I took, was solely to understand what I want to do in my life. Is legal marketing even going to work out for me? Because back then I was just in between BD and strategy and sales, and submissions was something that I wasn't into, but legal recruitment had also, come into my profile. So I took that break and I traveled across to a lot of places. I stayed in hostels, so I met a lot of younger crowd, basically my age people, who were also trying to figure out what they want to do, and there were a few travelers. So the thing is that the more you expose yourself to people out there, you will probably find yourself. And I mean, as philosophical or romantic as I may sound, I'm not romanticizing tripping and going on sabbatical, etc. But I'm just touching upon a very real point that sometimes when you feel stuck, you need to get out physically and mentally. And I did that. And that helped me a lot, even with clients. I actually started my freelance content writing and I got a couple of, leads also, where I started content writing for them. Yes, they were not law in nature. It was for a wedding company, but I mean, I got my bread and butter. And for 6 months, I, was consistently also, yes, networking. And 6 months later, I actually, did realize that, okay, maybe I want to, pursue masters in international business, because I thought the only way for me to probably do better is by, pursuing masters. This is something that I've noticed all law students kind of pursue, which is LLM or master or whatever they want to do. Of course, yes, uh, reasons are different to each person. But for me, I thought, okay, maybe I'm not progressing in my career, maybe because I need to, learn that craft, which you can only learn through studying. That's what I thought. But 6 months later, like after I was done with the 1 month solo backpacking trip in Himachal, everything I've done, and I'm coming back home, and I receive a call from, a managing partner of a law firm saying that, we find your profile interesting, and would you be interested to work with us, etc. So I was coming back home to Bangalore, and I just went to the office the next day, and I told them that I'm leaving to study my masters in July. So I don't think I'm interested, but I still went to the interview because I thought it's okay, there's no harm, let me just. But over there, the managing partner told me one thing which I abide till date, is that either you can earn and learn, or you can learn and earn. So it's different. And what I chose to do is, I thought, okay, fine, let me earn first, I'll learn on the go. And this sabbatical had not, if had this sabbatical not happened, I think I probably would have been sulking somewhere, thinking, what else can I do? What better can I do? Etc. etc. And I wouldn't have gotten that job. That got me to another job, where I lasted for 2.5 years. And right now, I'm on yet another sabbatical, but this time I've taken it after 3 years, and I'm still planning and plotting as to what I want to do and how I want to position myself from now on. But from time to time, taking a break is important. And my advice to anybody who feels they're stuck is just take a break, go on a trip if need be, whatever serves you the best. But you need to take a break, and please do not listen to what people say, that you're maybe too young to take a sabbatical break, or you're too young to not be working, or whatever, because you know your pace and you will eventually catch up. So right now I'm on a sabbatical myself, and I don't know what I'm going to be finding about myself, but this is how it is.
Right. So lastly, if you could give one piece of advice to law students who are interested in marketing, brand strategy, or freelancing, what would it be?
Um, I actually would love for more students to come into this domain, mainly because right now there's a dearth of skilled people in this thing. Of course, yes, there are marketers and there are BT professionals and so many other people outside of law, right? But in this industry, in the legal industry per se, it's very important for a lawyer to be doing all of this, because they understand the nuances of legal industry. So my advice to law students would be, find for people who are doing all of this, speak to them, get on a call with them, ask them all the questions that you have in the world, and do not shy away from asking for an opportunity, because this is a domain where opportunities exist, but we do not know that you exist. So in order for us to kind of collab, we need to kind of have that intersection, and only you can make it happen. So for all the law students who are still interested, or even for law graduates, or even for lawyers, who are kind of intrigued by what I've said so far, feel free to ping people who are doing similar things. ask them questions, ask for work, ask for opportunities, whatever you can, get your hands on, and just stay at it. In the beginning, it will sound exciting. In between, it will sound a little monotonous, and you may feel that maybe you've done a maybe this isn't for you. But in the end, this is, I guess, the best thing that, you can do also, apart from your usual litigation and corporate law, etc.
Thank you for the very real advice. I believe we have covered everything that we needed from you. Thank you so very much for telling us on how to explore this non-traditional way of practice. I'm very sure this video will be of great help to everybody watching it. And on behalf of ILCC, I wish you the very best for your journey ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.